This Liberty Sports Update is brought to you by Beacon Credit Union.
After looking at the tape on Saturday night, the score didn't necessarily represent how well we played. I think of the 88 snaps, there was about 70 where we were right where we needed to be. You know, the remaining 18 came down to a lack of execution between penalties, drop footballs, errant throws. Heck, there was even some calls that weren't made. You know, there's 18 plays there where if we did what we were supposed to do, you know, it'd been a different ball game, certainly. But there's all these things that distract you, and that's, you know, playing the game of football. It's about avoiding distractions. It could be the weather, it could be the delays, it could be the perception of the opponent. It could be a number of things, and you got to avoid the distractions in order to make your plays when they come your way. And so we didn't execute the way we were supposed to, and obviously that led to the result. Looking forward to this week. This is a really good football team, well coached. We have some history with the defensive coordinator. Heck, I had played for him at Nebraska, and so was exposed to his system, his teaching in years past. And they're very multiple. They can change their defense at the drop of a dime, just because they play a large number of offenses, and they got to be able to accommodate their strengths and weaknesses. So we're going to have our hands full, but it's an exciting challenge and task that we're going to take on.
When you went back and watched it, you mentioned drops. How many drops did you count on tape from this past week? And just what are you doing to correct that?
Anywhere between 5 and 8 legit drops where, hey, it was in your hand and the ball was put down on the ground. And that's just something that you when you play in our offense, whether it's raining or it's sunny and 80, the ball is going to get thrown because the plays are there and they have to be made. A great example of that was last year against Duquesne. I mean, it was monsoon was coming down. To win the game, we threw the football around to get in position. We made catches when we needed to, put us in position to score. And so we always use that game as an example of, the worst case scenario. You can catch the football in the rain. You can make the throws in the rain. There's no excuse as to why we can't catch the football. Those guys didn't have any issues doing it, and so neither should we. To make improvements upon that, it's just about being locked in, dialed in, being conscientious of what's going on. Because when it's raining and you're catching the football on the perimeter of the field, you're worrying about securing the catch and getting your feet in. There's a number of different things that come into play. And so you got to have great awareness of how I need to position this football and how fast I need to get my feet down.
Even go back to the Army game where there was still, I think, 4 or 5 drops in that one. Have you been working with the guys to, work on securing the ball and making sure they bring it in first before, trying to turn up field?
Yeah, certainly. There's some things that we work on in our what we call our awareness phase, and it's where we're conscientiously thinking about what the objective is in relation to, like, where's the football need to be placed? Where do my hands need to be? After I catch the football, how do I secure the football? Because where's the defender? So on and so forth. So we do break it down in its finer parts to try to make our guys more conscientious of what needs to be done. But then when we go full speed, we don't talk about those things. We just let those guys play, and hopefully it transitions from the awareness phase to the actual performance phase.
How would you assess Buckshot's performance Saturday? Obviously, his numbers weren't what we've become accustomed to.
I thought he was on mark for the most point. There was one drive where, we were disappointed in the throw that led into an interception. It's something that, he's done in years past in terms of making that throw. And so for him not to make that throw, was, hurt our football team, because that would have been, 7-7, I would believe. And then the next drive we went down to score. It's 14-14. And then the next drive we had a drop ball on the perimeter of the field. It would have been 21-14. The game's going to be totally different. But I thought, he did a pretty good job of managing the game. There were some throws that we would like back if we could do it over again. But he's been on mark for what we're looking for. It's just we got to come together. We can't have any penalties. We can't have any drops. We can't have any errant throws. And what happened the first week can happen every week.
Mexico announced yesterday the leader on the defense, Alex Hart, the middle linebacker, is out for the season, torn ACL. You expect to try to attack wherever areas you see fit, knowing that they're going to have a new voice there at middle linebacker?
Yeah, his position specifically is very, very vital to what they do. But I believe whoever they're going to put in there is going to be solid. They do a really solid job of recruiting guys and developing guys in their defense. And so that's not one position that we're going to attack specifically. There's a number of areas that we see that, could match up, genetically or performance-wise. There's a couple spots that we feel like we can attack, but no one specific person.
Watching a couple of the games earlier this year, they've run a lot of zone coverages, but then go man-to-man when they feel like they need to. Have you noticed any pockets in that zone where you can maybe get the tight ends involved, similar to how you had Mitchell Lewis on that seam route where if he doesn't get held, it's a touchdown, try to find ways to exploit what they do?
Yeah, certainly. When it comes to attacking defenses, there's only two types of coverages. You got man and you got zone. There's variations of the two that you're concerned with. And so in each one, you're trying to either, in a zone coverage, you're trying to get people in voids. In man coverage, you're trying to beat the man however you can. And so for us, it's just about getting guys in the right spot, right, and then getting the football there and then catching it, locking and securing it. When you do get those one-on-one matchups in man coverage like, you mentioned, you got to come down with the football because the guy that's covering you is not worried about anything else but you and the football in relation to where you're going. And so we're going to have to take advantage of the one-on-one scenarios that we're going to get in certain situations. And then we got to get the football in those voids in their zone coverages.
Did it give you confidence as a play caller to see Frankie Hickson come in and just pick up right where Contori left off?
Yeah, certainly. Last week when we had visited, we had talked about, hey, he didn't have, that many touches in weeks prior. And then here he comes in and he has 90-something yards of rushing. And that just goes to show you that, like, no one week are we, designing a game plan just for one guy. Whomever is in there is going to get their touches, and sometimes it's 4, sometimes it's 24. It doesn't change. That just was a great example of him not getting many. Then all of a sudden he gets in this week and has a phenomenal game rushing the football, and just goes back to what you guys had asked last week about his attitude. Is anything different? No, that's Frankie. Frankie's going to come to work with a phenomenal attitude every single day, whether he touches the ball once or 20 times, he's going to come to work, and that's what you appreciate about that young man.
Last year, New Mexico got off to a slow start, and every game so far this year, except for the opener against Incarnate Word, they've gotten off to a slow start. How important is it for the offense to get off to a fast start, similar to Old Dominion, and then be able to sustain that and put the pressure on them? Yeah,
certainly we have to start fast just so we can support our defense, because our defense, they do a good job when we're doing a really good job. But when we're not doing our part and we're asking them to do double duty, it's not good. You can't ask your defense to be on the field a lot of snaps because you're going 3 and out or you're only going, 6 and out. You can't have that. You got to be able to get some juice, some momentum, some excitement, some energy on the road and on the sideline in order to support those guys so then they're running around fresh, excited about what we're doing on offense. And all of a sudden, that's when your unity kind of kicks in. You can see it unfold.
Seems that through the first 3 games that the scoring kind of comes in spurts. You might score 2 or 3 possessions in a row and go long droughts. Is consistency something that you're preaching to your unit?
Certainly in all parts. As a play caller, I got to be very consistent in what I'm trying to get accomplished on certain down and distances, who I'm trying to get the football to in certain matchups. The consistency part is the most difficult part about this game of football because you're forcing. You're trying to impose your will on someone else who's trying to do the same thing. And so sometimes there's favorable matchups where you're going to win those, and there's times where you're not. And I got to make sure that we're in positions to where if we got an unfavorable matchup with a certain run call, then I got to have some type of external or internal run or pass that will complement, maybe that matchup. That's not going to work right now. And so I got to do my part as a play caller as well to get our guys in, what I call downhill plays, right? It's easier to go downhill than it is uphill. Well, if I got a run that's into an overloaded, gap, that's an uphill run. That's not going to work. So I got to have something that counter that. Got to have something that's a downhill play call. Sometimes it's a pass. Sometimes it's a bubble. Sometimes it's a check out of that run and get into another different run or another pass.
Joe, how have you seen the last 2 ball games, Army and North Texas, defending Antonio, and how much harder is he having to work to get open?
Yeah, last week those guys didn't do much anything different than they had done in weeks past. The first 2 weeks, was significantly different. Like the first 3 drives of ODU, we had favorable looks. It was easy pitch and catch. And then the next 5, it was like, all right, we're gonna have to mix and match because this guy's just gonna take over the game. And then Army's game plan, they didn't really change anything. They were always going to press the boundary receiver or whatever it may be. So he was in the boundary a number of times that we tried to target him, and he got press coverage. And then sometimes he beat press coverage. So, only team that really changed anything in what they did was really ODU. Everyone else kind of just has stuck to what, they normally do. But he's a guy that decided he was going to work on some extra things in order to make sure, hey, if the worst case scenario, I'm going to win this if I do X, Y, and Z. And so he's kind of taking some measures in addition to Coach DeArm and putting our guys in the worst case scenario, so that they know what I can and what I can't do, and how do I achieve my task.
Given that New Mexico does so many different things defensively, different fronts, how much different has the preparation been for you, or excessive, I guess, has the preparation been for you this week? What kind of challenges is it?
Yeah, and a previous interview we had here, I said that we'll usually similar defenses will have a similar game plan for, but these guys are so multiple that you gotta have 3 or 4 different thoughts going into this because they can jump into a number of different things. And so with that being said, we're gonna have play calls that are accommodating for 4-man fronts, 3-man fronts, 5-man fronts, drop 8 defenses. And so preparation wise, we've already seen a lot of what they've done. It's just not all at once. It's been in little spouts. Hey, 4-man front team, odd front team, bear front team. Now it's kind of all in one.
Does it make it challenging though? Because like if you're in something that's working, then all of a sudden they change it up, and you're going away from it.
Yeah, certainly. And that's why, as a play caller, I got to have great eyes. In addition to trusting our guys on the sideline when they come off the field. Hey, coach, they're jumping into a 4-man front every time they do this, or they're stemming to that. We need to be alert for this, and so we'll have a menu of plays to accommodate the defense. It's just making sure that we got the right ones dialed up when it matters.